Hey everybody, I'm Rod Keyser, and what I'm going to do today in this video is I'm going to reproduce some missing parts on this mirror frame. We have this piece right here is completely missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a new one. I'm going to show you how I do it. It's a very simple, easy, straightforward method. Anybody can do it. Stick around. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be reproducing a missing part, a missing piece of fretwork on this mirror. Now this mirror came in all broke up, busted here, busted here, busted here, busted here, and I went ahead and I glued all that up. Our next step is going to be, once I fix the fretwork, is to sand it down and refinish it, and we'll completely restore it for the client. However, this piece on the bottom, there was a piece like this on the bottom here is just a little bit smaller, probably completely missing. Now there's only so much money in a job like this, so the client decided to leave that off. So we're not going to reproduce that. I'm just going to cut it straight. There's a little tab on there. I'm going to cut that off, finish the bottom. You'll never know it was there. Now this piece right here is what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to reproduce a new one, and I'm going to use a technique by making a mold. Now I've already done this in another video on our channel. If you want to check that out, I'll put a description below, and that has been a really useful video for a lot of people. It's a great video. It's really a great video. There's a lot of different types of applications that you can do this technique, and it can be very helpful in a lot of different ways. Sometimes you just have to be creative, right? This is going to be different, and we're fortunate in that this piece right here, it was busted, but I had the pieces that I could glue it on. So I'm going to sand this and make this a perfect piece. Then I'm going to cast a mold. Now, once I cast the mold, I'll be able to pour that mold. This will be a mirror image of this side right here. So what that means is I'm going to be able to flip it and use the back of it. If I couldn't do that and flip it upside down, and a lot of pieces you can't. See, if this was decorative on the front, I wouldn't be able to do that. But since it's just a piece of fretwork, I can flip it upside down, use the back, sand the back perfectly smooth, and then it's going to be the exact same thing that I need right here. Now, I've been asked this question before. There are times when this just doesn't work, and you have a piece on the left, and you're going to need to flip it and make it a piece on the right. If it has a decoration on the front, then that doesn't work. So if you don't have something to mold, you're kind of in a bit of a pickle. In that situation. Here, what I would have to do is, if it didn't, I just have to make it a different method, a different way. So I'd have to probably, in this one, I trace it out and cut it on a scroll saw and out of wood. But that would take me probably 3 times the amount of time. The money isn't in this job, You'll never know the difference, and you're going to see that in this video. And that's what makes this a really cool technique. So the product we're going to use in this video is called Amazing Mold Putty. It's made by a company called Illumilite out of Michigan in the USA. It's a great product. I've been using this for a good number of years, and there are plenty of other silicone mold compounds out there. I like this stuff because I know it works well, and you get a decent amount, the price is right, and I buy it on Amazon, so it's very easy to purchase, and I get it real quick. So I'll put a link below in the description for this product on Amazon, so that way you can click on that link, find the product real easy, and get the right stuff. So what we're doing right here is getting ready to apply the compound. So I'm just taping out the perimeter, and then I will begin to mix the two compounds together. Now, something worth noting here is that once they're thoroughly mixed, and you'll see I'm going to mix this until it's a nice light uniform yellow color, which is the reason that you have 2 different colors in the compound, so that you can see exactly when it's perfectly mixed. Now, once I get it mixed properly, I've only got 2 to 3 minutes until it starts to set up, and once it starts to set up, you're done. You can't go any further. It's just not gonna take shape. So it's going to already be curing. 2 to 3 minutes isn't much time. So if you've got a larger scale piece that you're going to be molding, you might want to do it in sections. That would be my suggestion. So it's something that you play with, you learn the product like anything else, right? But here all I'm doing is I've mixed it thoroughly. Now I'm patting it out. So I'm going to spread it out over top of my my piece that I want to mold, and then I'm going to push it into all the cracks and crevices, and I'm going to work it real hard with my hands for the couple minutes that I have, and I want to make sure that it gets thoroughly squeezed and pushed into all the cracks and crevices so it takes up the exact shape, and I don't have any air pockets or any areas that don't get molded properly. So once you've waited 15 to 20 minutes or longer, you can go ahead and remove the mold. And it becomes very pliable and very tough and durable. So you just work your way around, and I just popped it off. It comes off pretty easily. The compound does not stick to wood. So you don't need to put anything on there to lubricate the wood in order for it to pop off easier. It's just going to pop right off. The silicone doesn't stick to wood. Now, what I'm doing right here is I need to make a back. Basically, I need to make a wall because I want to pour this mold, but as you can see, I have an open side from the frame of the mirror that I wasn't able to mold. So what I'm going to do is build a wall. Now, with these silicone molding compounds, the only thing that will stick to this mold is more mold material. So if you have a hole in it, or if there's any repair you want to do to it, you can't use anything. You can't use any other product that I've been able to find so far other than more mold compound. So you just mix up a little bit more mold compound, and that will stick to the mold itself. So here what I'm doing is I'm using a craft stick, and I had to tape two of them together, and I'm using a craft stick in order to build a wall. Now I'm going to then be able to remove this craft stick eventually, but I'm just using the craft stick, and I'm putting more mold compound there, and I'm building a wall. Now I'm going to pop that out, and I'm going to remove that craft stick. Now, since I used that craft stick to build that wall, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two open holes basically at each end. So now what you see me doing is I'm going to use another craft stick, and that's just to make it rigid. And I'm using more silicone putty, more amazing mold compound at each end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill those little gaps so there's no holes, and I'm going to leave it sit and get nice and rigid. Once it's done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be able to make my fiberglass resin that I'm going to use to fill the mold. If you use fiberglass like I'm using, be sure to follow the instructions as far as how much hardener to add per ounce. So I've measured out how many ounces I have of the fiberglass resin. I've followed the instructions. I've used the exact amount that they said to use, and then I added more. And that's just what I do because I found sometimes it's just not enough, but I still haven't gotten to the point where I've put too much in. So I always add an extra squirt or two just to make sure it's going to harden for me. And all I'm doing now is filling the mold, and I'm going to fill it all the way to the top. Since I used that resin to close up those two little holes, I should have no leaks. So I'm just going to fill her up and let it dry. And then once it's dry, the mold is done and it's made. It's worth noting real quickly here that you don't need to use fiberglass. Alumilite also makes a casting resin, so that you can just go ahead, purchase their casting resin, follow the directions for that casting resin, and use it in the same way that I used the fiberglass. I use fiberglass because I just always have it laying around. And once your resin is completely dry, you can go ahead and remove it from the mold. Now molds typically need a little bit of cleaning up, so I usually use some type of sander. I use a belt sander. Here I'm using a disc sander. Now this sander is not a random orbital sander. Random orbital sanders I wouldn't necessarily use, because if you use it in the way that I'm using it, which is upside down clamped, you'll stop a random orbital sander. So a belt sander upside down works really well. And if you've got a lot of time in your hands, you can just sand it by hand. So point being, you just want to sand it so that it's smooth and it takes the shape that you need it to take. On the back side, it's not going to typically be perfectly smooth. So usually I'm not sanding the front side, the exposed side. Usually I'm just sanding the back. Since there was no way for me to clamp this up or anything, what I do is I use 5-minute epoxy, and I was a human clamp, and I just stood there and held it in position for 5 minutes until the epoxy set up and it was glued in place. I don't suggest nailing these because fiberglass resin, it can be pretty brittle. So just 5-minute epoxy it on there, and it's good to go. Now that pretty much concludes making this mold, but I got a lot of questions on the last video that we did making molds on how you color them. So just real quickly, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the staining process, and then how we go ahead and color the mold itself. Now there are different ways of coloring this. Fiberglass resin does not take color, so you can go ahead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Mohawk Blendle powder stains. You can also use like a gel stain and just stain it. It'll basically just muddy it up to that color. I'm a big fan of Blendle powders because I can use multiple colors, and I can layer my colors and give it more of a graining effect, a much more believable look, something that looks very natural, as opposed to just muddying it up with some stain. However, muddying it up with gel stains does work, and for a lot of applications, it's all you might need to do. If you want to take it up a notch, then you might want to learn how to use Blendle powder stains and purchase some of those. What I'll do is I'll put a link below for some Blendle powders from Mohawk. You can also purchase those on Amazon. Now what I do is, you can see I've had these, I have quite a variety of colors, and I put them in these little boxes because it's rare that I use just one color. I'll use a bunch of multiple colors, mix them together for the exact color that I want. And I'm just using them here with I'm using lacquer as my mixing base. You can also use a product called 2-minute touch up. Now I'm not going to get too far into this. What we'll do is we're going to do some more videos on just how to use Blendle powder stains themselves. So look on our channel, check that out. In the near future, we'll have some videos on how to use Blendle powders. I'm just going to go over real quick and give you just a sort of overview of some of the techniques that we use in order to do the coloring on our molds. So be sure to become a subscriber of our channel, and you'll want to hit the notification button, the bell, and that way you'll get notifications when we do our next video, and that should be on using Blendle powder stains, and we're going to get a lot more in depth on how to use them and the applications for them, and a lot more on furniture touch-up. So yeah, you'll want to become a subscriber. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and check out our channel. We have a lot more videos there, and a lot more coming up in the future. I'm Rod Keyser from the Restoration Studio LLC. I hope you enjoyed the video. Check us out on the web, www.WeRefinish.com and WeRefinish.net, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.